Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Deeper the Water, the Uglier the Fish, by Katya Apekina. Narrated by Amy Bentley and Roger Wayne. Part 1. New York. Chapter 1. Edith, 1997. It's our second day in New York City. We're with Dennis Lomack. Mom's in St. Vincent's, resting. She has recently done something very stupid, and I'm the one who found her. Dennis has been taking us around town, trying to get our minds off of everything, trying to make up for the last decade. Tonight, he brought Mae and me along on a date with a redhead to a dance recital. Mom would take us sometimes into New Orleans to see the Nutcracker, but this isn't like that. We're in the basement of a church. It's cramped and damp. On a stage, a woman in a white sundress dances by herself. She looks like a feral cat. Her rib cage shows on the sides and down the front. She has thick, dark hair that sways at her waist as she moves. The stage is covered in folding chairs, and she dances with her eyes squeezed shut. She seems aware of nothing, banging her legs and arms and not even noticing. The chairs collapse and fall around her, and she keeps going. She slows and cocks her head at an angle, as if she's listening for something, then makes little twitchy movements with her hands. Even from my seat, I can smell her dirty hair. It wafts with each spin. She blurs, and I realize I'm crying. I don't know why. That's not true. I do. It's because she reminds me so much of Mom. The way she dances, so desperate, but also so closed off. She isn't dancing for us. She's somewhere deep inside herself, and the seats could be empty, and she'd still dance like this. Mae looks terrified. I squeeze her hand, but she doesn't notice. I don't know Dennis well enough to guess what he's feeling. Probably nothing. In the dark theater, his face looks like it's carved out of a rock. His date has fallen asleep on his shoulder. Outside, Dennis pries the redhead off his neck, twirls out from under her, and puts her in a cab. It's almost a dance, too, the way he does it. His movements are so calculated. Obviously, he has a lot of practice getting rid of people. As the cab pulls away, the woman looks at us through the glass like she's a sad golden retriever. Mae waves. I already don't remember her name. Rachel? Rebecca? It doesn't matter. I doubt we'll ever see her again. We walk back to Dennis's apartment in silence. He walks between us, holding our elbows. It's a long way, 30 or 40 blocks. The air is cold, and most of the stores are closed with the metal grates down over the windows. The benches we pass have men lying on them. Some have sleeping bags, but others are just wrapped in newspapers. The ones who didn't get a bench lie in doorways or on the ground. Dennis leads us around the men in silence. I've never seen so many homeless people before. At an intersection, a group of women walks by us, laughing and licking ice cream cones. They don't even look at the people on the ground as they step over them. I'm sorry, Dennis says. His words hang there. Mae and I glance at each other. I wish he'd be a little more specific about what it is exactly that he's sorry about. At the apartment, we sit at the kitchen table to have tea. When I think about the woman swaying on the stage, I start to cry again. Mae strokes my hair, rubs my temples with her cold fingers. Dennis hovers behind her. He helps her out of her coat, tries to help me with mine, but I shake him off. "What have we done?" I say. "How could we have left her?" "Please calm down," he says and hands me a napkin. I blow my nose. His face is stiff and unreadable, but his hand is shaken as he pours water into our mugs, and he has to steady it so he won't spill. I look away at the box of teas Mae is holding. I don't like that his hand is shaken. He has no right to lose it. I take a deep breath and focus on the box. It's wooden with carvings of elephants and full of tea bags. Ginger lemon, rooibos, acai berry. Shit I've never heard of. Mom only drinks coffee. I pick one that smells the least like grass. I bet the box was left here by a woman, just like the small sock we found balled up in the corner of our room. Dennis wedges his chair between the table and the refrigerator. He buries his fingertips in his beard as he stares at us. I look away, but I see Mae staring back at him. He shakes my shoulder until soon I'm looking at him too. It's strange because his eyes are the same eyes that I see in the mirror. I feel momentarily hypnotized, like I'm outside my body. "Listen to me," he says, and his voice is wet. "I understand that you might feel, at first, that I'm a stranger. But I'm not a stranger. I am your father." And then his rigid face collapses, and he pulls us into his chest and holds us until the tea gets cold. Mae. This is the kind of thing my mother liked to do. She'd pick a person and follow them for hours. Through the mall, to the garage, to their house. Once, we drove all night through the woods with our headlights off to somebody's hunting cabin. Sometimes, if it was during the day, she would let Edie come too, though when Edie was there it would become something fun and toothless. A game where she and Edie would share a bag of Twizzlers in the front seat and speculate about the people we were following. But when it was just Mom and me at night, the trees and swamp rushing past the windows in the dark, it was not a game at all. I was submerged in Mom's reality. Sometimes she'd get out of the car and I'd have to go with her. Once, we walked for a long time down an overgrown path to somebody's deer stand. The air was thick and cold. The sound of crickets and tree frogs was deafening. I was 10, maybe 11, and I remember this unpleasant recurring feeling I'd get every few steps, like I was waking up and waking up and waking up. The deer stand was a plywood shack on stilts. I don't know if we stumbled on it or if Mom had been leading us there deliberately. I followed her up the ladder because I was scared to stay on the ground alone. It was like a treehouse, but it smelled of mold and blood. Mom went through an entire book of matches, reading the headlines of old newspapers covering the floor. We got lost on the way back to the car. I was terrified that we would get shot at or chased by dogs. These things had happened too. It was light out by the time we got home, and then I had to go to school and pretend like nothing out of the ordinary had taken place.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?